And so we welcome for the first time this football season one of the great Eagles players of all time, an Eagles Hall of Famer, and one of our absolute favorite analysts, not just players, but analysts as well, the great Seth Joyner. Good morning, Seth. How are you, pal?
Good morning, folks. What's going on? Hey,
I'm
Joe,
good, man. Yes, sir.
I'm sitting in your seat this morning.
He sure is.
This feels somewhat comfortable, man. I may have to get out of the TV.
Yeah, you might try sticking around.
Here's what I'd recommend to you, Seth. Try that from 10 to 2 when Giglio sits there. Right? Isn't that replacing the hammer now? I mean,
hey, I might not beat the hammer, but I got a couple tricks up my sleeve, man.
Very good. Understood. So, Seth, first off, before we get to football, man, how you been? How was the offseason? I saw you a couple times at different events, but how you been, man?
Man, this offseason's been awesome, man. A little bit of travel, a little bit of golf, a little bit of rest. I got to kick it with my grandson on 2 different occasions. He lives outside of the country, so that was a blessing. So,
congratulations! Is that a new
great.
Grandson? Is that?
Oh yeah!
Congratulations!
He's 1 year old. Turned 1 in July.
Good.
And I got a second one on the way coming in April. So I'm just stoked.
Congrats, man! That's awesome.
That is awesome, man. That is something. So, Seth, let's just go with the big overarching question to start, and then we'll get to everything else. But what'd you make of the game last night? Biggest thing that stood out to you, what was it? Positive or negative? What hit you the most?
No, it sits right in the middle, Joe, because, this is what you come to expect because these guys aren't playing in the preseason. So these first 4 games are going to be season-ish, if you will. I'm not going to be too harsh until we probably reach week 4, week 5, because, everybody's going to look like this across the National Football League. I thought in certain areas the offense looked extremely good in the first half. 3 long drives, and three touchdowns. Conversely, on the defensive side, they were what I expected them to be, a little bit inconsistent, and then throw in the early ejection by Jalen Carter, and that was, to me, that was the key to them scoring for scoring three scoring drives in a row. So, even Kevin Patullo, I felt like he looked really good in the first half, and then when Dallas started dialing up the pressures in the second half, especially after the delay, he really didn't have an answer for it.
What did you make of Vic Fangio's plan to slow down their passing game? It didn't seem to work, but I don't know how much of that is he just doesn't have a workable cornerback to do the job the way he expects it done. What do you make of it, Seth?
Well, listen, John, if you go back and you look at last year, the first game they came out, they were extremely aggressive. Second game they came out, they backed off. They were aggressive against Atlanta, and then the following week against Tampa Bay, I think that was the order that went in. They were, highly passive again, 10 yards off the ball. Maybe this is the feeling out period for him, similar to what it was like last year. And I just felt like the left corner was the biggest mistake they made last year. I felt like Isaiah Rodgers was a guy that they should have brought back. Maybe the cap number was a little bit too high for their liking, but I thought that he would be the guy coming in, to this year. But when Howie made the decision to go young, it was pretty evident what was going on, that Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks were going to be the 2 guys to battle it out for that job. They felt like one of those guys will get the job done, and then, you got to bring in Adoree Jackson because you're not seeing throughout OTAs what you really want to see. And then, goodness gracious, we get to the end of training camp, and, they make the trade for Jacorian Bennett, and I'm like, they're really not happy with either one of these guys.
Yeah.
And it is going to be, I talked about it on my podcast last week. I talked about it, on my TV show last week. Whoever that left cornerback is, he better put his big boy pants on, eat a lunch, and, maybe even have to wear extra jock, because teams are going to game plan him, and he's going to see a lot of plays at him. And I see people on Twitter talking about, I thought Quinyon Mitchell was going to travel. It doesn't matter, when you got 3 guys on, 3 wide receivers like, Dallas had Pickens, Lamb, and Turpin. That setup kind of scares the hell out of anybody, and you can send Quinyon Mitchell with whoever you want to, but an efficient and smart offensive coordinator is going to get the matchup that he wants, and they're still going to attack that matchup.
What did you make of the play of Andrew Makuba? He was clearly the safety that Vic Fangio preferred out there. He got 84% of the defensive snaps. Reed Blankenship had 100% as the safety opposite him, but then Makuba was the guy, it looked like. What do you expect to see from him moving forward, Seth, and how well did he play against the Cowboys?
Well, up until game time, Sidney Brown was penciled in as the starter, and I was, kind of miffed when I saw Makuba actually get the start. But, I think he's shown enough throughout training camp in the preseason in a lot of ways, to earn that spot. And listen, when they draft you in the second round, that's kind of a death knell, for anybody else that's, competing for that job. At some point in time, they're going to give him every opportunity to be the full-time starter. He didn't get beat in any regard last night. I thought he tackled well, when tackles were there to be made, and he seemed to be where he was supposed to be, in every situation.
Seth Joyner with us, as will be typically on Mondays in studio 9 to 10, obviously in this case on a Friday following the Thursday game. Seth, let's tackle the Jaylen Carter situation, and then we'll get to the phones and mix in some calls this hour. But two-part question on Jaylen Carter. First is, from a player standpoint, which you played in the league for a long time, how over the line is it? Like I've heard through the years, guys are grabbing other guys' man parts at the bottom of piles for fumbles. I'd personally rather someone spit on me than grab my man parts, but okay. So how over the line is it player to player? And second question is, let's say you're Seth Joyner, established year 6 or 7 leader guy. You're not a rookie. Like, you're established quality player, leader guy. What would you do as a teammate of Jaylen Carter if he was your teammate today and you were established and you wanted to address it with him? What would you do? So two different questions in there.
Well, the first part, Joe, I didn't realize that there really was a preference between the two. Because back when I played, if you did either one, it called for, I probably would have got ejected right behind him. But I just, as far as the spitting is concerned, like Devin said, it is the most disrespectful thing that I think you can do to another human being. Now, it's not, there may be some other things, but when somebody spits on you.
Yeah, it's bad. I'm not saying it's not. It is bad.
Yeah. So I just, Howie's made the decision to go young on defense, for salary cap reasons, because we're so salary cap heavy on the offensive side of the ball that, you almost have to do that on the defensive side. We're going to retool with younger players. We're going to, try to win a couple of more Super Bowls with these guys while they're on their rookie deals on the defense, and, retool on the offense when we have to. But this is, in a lot of ways, what you get when you start to lose leadership, on that side of the ball. No more Slay. No more Brandon Graham. No more Josh Sweat. Milton Williams was a veteran. Now he's gone. Who in that huddle is going to grab Jalen Carter by, the collar and tell him, get your ass back over here, in the huddle. You have no business over here.
You know who might be on defense today, even though he's not playing? It could be Nakobe, and he's not even an active player.
Yeah,
Can't be during the game. I mean, he might be the biggest leader you have on D, but he's not even playing.
I mean, I can confirm on the sidelines, Nakobe Dean, I was actually thinking this last night, like for how long he's been injured since last postseason, he's on the sidelines every single game and extremely engaged. Like, he has a headset on, so he is still very much involved, and I think still a leader.
I love that. So, Seth, what would you do? Let's say this is your younger teammate. What would you do?
Well, I mean, listen, Nick Sirianni said we're going to handle it in-house. I think that, Nick will have his conversation with Jaylen, but ultimately the leaders in the locker room have to be the one to, kind of lay down the law. The Lane Johnsons, the A.J. Browns, the Jordan Mailatas. They just got to go to this guy and express to him, how important he is to not only the defense, but to the team. Like, you can't get caught up like this. And, as crazy as it sounds, it potentially could be, a watershed moment for him, because he seemed like he was pretty darn contrite in the locker room after everything was done. So
He better be.
It's unfortunate, to come out after you win the Super Bowl, you get kicked out before you even run one play in the first game of the season against your most hated rival. But, let's wait and see, how the lesson permeates itself, with him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, let's mix in some calls. Obviously, all Eagles pretty much today. Reminder, Phillies did win yesterday. Obviously, that means the Brewers lost, so Phillies are getting closer to the Brewers. Phillies got a shot for the top spot in the NL. Phillies are 4.5 games behind Milwaukee. Dodgers lost. Phillies are 3 games up on the Dodgers. So that's pretty good for the 2 seed.
3 games up on the
Dodgers.
Dodgers.
That's the most they've been in maybe all season. It's certainly a long time.
It feels like it might be.
I mean, the Phillies had the best record at one point. So to be fair, at some point they had the best record. But
how many more games do they have?
22 left to play.
How many more games do they have left with against the Brewers?
They're
done.
Milwaukee.
They're done.
It's the Dodgers they have.
Yeah.
They have 3 against the Dodgers left.
Yeah. I mean, they got a shot. Look, Milwaukee, that's going to be tough. I mean, let's say you go 15-7. You need the other team to play, slightly below 500. So it's possible, but it's not going to be easy. All right, let's get to Rick right now in Easton. Rick, good morning.
Always a pleasure, Seth. Always great insight.
Rick, what's happening, man?
Always thought you should be a coach, but that's for a story for a different day. I
true.
totally agree with what Rhea said. I had my phone blow up. I was at the game last night, and already, almost like the Santa Claus snowball thing, classy Philadelphia at it again. So you're right, Rhea. The rest of the country can be very, very rude, disrespectful to Philadelphia, even though it should be a Carter thing only. I wanted to mention this. I've been asking about this for quite a few years now. Whatever happened to the coffin corner from the punter? I thought that was huge yesterday. Him being
It was
able
massive.
Pin
Massive.
them back, no run backs. I mean, it was really very, very nice to see. And I was always told, well, it's so hard to do it. Well, it sure wasn't that hard yesterday. I hats off to that. All right, so listen, you guys know this is my 43rd year officiating NCAA and high school wrestling. If you have a flagrant misconduct and spitting on an opponent is just like that, you lose the match at 6 points like you've been pinned. You lose 3 team points. In college, you're removed from the next game, and in high school, you're removed from the next 2 competitions. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm the first one that would love to see the Eagles go 2-0 and beat Kansas City. We have a chance as an owner. Maybe he's not going to get involved. We're a coach. We're the gold standard. I am all for Carter being disciplined by our head coach. I know it's not your choice, Joe, but we can agree to disagree.
Sure.
But that should be a flagrant misconduct, and he should be sat. And if we lose the game, we lose the game. We'll have to be better for it. And I totally agree, Seth. Our first 4 games, it seems like every year with Sirianni, that it's like our preseason. Yeah. But I just wanted to.
Well, Rick, one thing on that point. Listen, Rick, great call, buddy. Always good hearing from you. One thing we got to give Sirianni and Hurts credit for, and a few of the other guys that have been here the whole time, because it's not many. I mean, Lane's been here the 5 years, and I'd have to go down the line on how many, but it's not most of them. Despite the way they approach training camp in the preseason, and you're right, Seth, they look ragged in the beginning oftentimes. They are now 5-0 under Sirianni in that first game. Now, week 2 and 3 and 4 typically start going sideways, but it is pretty amazing to have such a, modern approach. And other teams are doing it too, to be clear, but they are 5-0, and there is something to be said for that in the first game. Let's go to Gino in Northeast Philly. Hello, Gino.
Morning, guys. How you doing this morning?
Super.
Sorry. Morning, guys. How you doing this morning?
What's happening,
Great.
man?
Seth, always a pleasure to talk to you. I told you this last year, I believe, but you were my dad's favorite player, and he passed away about 8 years ago. So anytime I get a chance to talk to you, it's really awesome. So,
Cool, man. Sorry to hear that, but good to be on with you this morning. What you got for us?
About last night's game. So I've been going to these games for a long time, that was one of the most bizarre games I've ever been at in my life.
No question.
And,
Yeah.
It wasn't quite Game 5 of the 08 World Series bizarre, but it was bizarre.
No,
It was out there.
I'm proud. I'm so proud of you this morning, Joe, because I'm reading a lot of this crap on Twitter and seeing it on some of the TV about the glorified running back and this and that. And I'm proud of you, Joe, that you said about what you said about Jalen this morning.
I thought he played great last night. I thought he was the single biggest reason why they won. I thought he played outstanding.
He absolutely is. In a game filled with chaos, and the one guy who looked calm, cool, and collected like he always does was Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, but I agree, calm, cool, and collected like always. I'm with that. Seth, I heard your chuckle. So here's my point, though. I thought he played better than he typically did last year in the regular season. And so,
okay, good. Maybe he's improved.
Yeah, maybe he has. I mean, look, the last two games, I think we would all agree. The last two games he played last year were the two best games he played last year, right?
Yes.
So I don't think it's like – I think I got tagged with – there's a lot of things that happened in the offseason.
That's not true. But go ahead. I digress.
Well, what game did he play better than the last two, Seth? It was one other game.
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh?
Cincinnati.
There is three.
Yeah. The Cincinnati game, he didn't play the last 10 minutes. He was nearly perfect in the game.
Well,
Jalen played the same way all season last year, okay? If you go and you look, he had 144 yards passing on, 19 to 23 last night. And those stats are no different than what it pretty much looked like last year.
You know what they did different last night, Seth? They hadn't done almost at all last year. They actually scored a touchdown on their first drive, which last year was like hitting the lottery. For
I'm not letting you off the hook that easy, man. Because you've been going you've been going in on my quarterback all off season, and now I'm in the studio and I'm not going for that.
My man,
get that button ready back, that delay button ready back there, James. I'm not letting you off that easy, man. You either going to be with our quarterback or you're not going to be with our quarterback. Plain and simple.
Why isn't he with our quarterback?
He played the same exact way last night as he been playing.
I disagree. He got the ball out more quick and decisive with the short passes. I saw a different quarterback last night.
You saw a different quarterback in the first half. I wouldn't say he missed some throws last night against blitz coverage in the second half, that kind of had me scratching my head a little bit. But my point is he has been the consistent same guy all of last year that you saw last night. And sometimes the numbers are just not going to be there. And what I love about Sirianni in his presser last night, he said when asked about A.J. Brown, because everybody was having a heart attack, that A.J. only had one catch off of one target.
Right.
He said sometimes, and I've been saying this for how long, Joe, sometimes, Jalen had to work through some progression things and didn't get back to A.J.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. By the way, Gino, let me say this. I appreciate the compliment. I do not appreciate that it was an assist for Seth to verbally assault.
I was
kind this morning, Joe.
I know you weren't saying
that. You think it's also fair that I think both offenses clearly struggled after that delay. That they both seemed totally out of rhythm after the lightning delay. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying the first game.
It's factual.
Well, that was the other part of the game that was so. Listen, there's two things, and Gino, good call. There's two things I think that stood out the most about it being a bizarre game. One, the first play, all hell breaks loose. You get an injury, you get Jaylen Carter. Two, you have an hour delay. But let's be real. The third thing that was completely bizarre: neither offense can be stopped before the delay, and then neither offense could score after the delay.
Joe, they both scored 8 consecutive drives. Both teams in the first half to end the game. Neither scored a point for their last combined.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I will say this. I think that the Eagles had a much better shot at stopping Dallas on one of those occasions because the Eagles had 9 penalties for 110 yards.
Yeah.
And most of those first 2 or 3 touchdowns that Dallas had, there was some kind of penalty.
Yeah. The Nolan Smith one.
Yes, there was some kind of
the Reed Blankenship one in the end zone. Yep.
I'm just saying, if the Eagles clean that up, then we're not having this conversation about how efficient Dallas's offense was because we had opportunities to get off the field, and I think 2 of those penalties were on 3rd and long situations that gave them a first down and prolonged the actual drive where they actually scored.
All right, more with Seth coming up. Phone calls, also time's yours. We'll get to our picks for week 1 of the NFL slate of games. By the way, a lot of dog meat games. Because, they give you these Thursday, a Friday game. They give you a couple Monday games. So the Sunday games stink. But we'll give you our 3 picks, and I'll kick John's ass in that challenge again this year. Back, you like that? I just slid that in. From Borgata today on 94 WIP.